My god, it's an original game concept idea with passion and interest put behind it. From a small team of developers that really wanted to make something fun and unique. It's not just another generic shooter. One of them's out. They broke free. They unplugged from the machine. I cannot even begin to tell you my excitement while I was learning about this game and the various things it would be able to do. It looked so unique, and it is really unique, which is why I'm going to have to apologize because I'm about to beat its fuzzy little face in. But stick around because I will go into why I actually enjoyed the game. Biomutant is an interesting open-world RPG adventure game. It allows you to choose between guns, melee, and some pretty neat psionic powers, as well as some mutations, though what mutation allows you to summon a giant mud fist from the ground, I'm not exactly sure. That seems a bit more psionic to me, but who am I to say? I'm not a biologist. It's a really fun concept and it's super unique, but right out the gate it's already tripping over the starting line. The character creator is incredibly vague. You choose what your stats are, and it kind of tries to form a character around what you're selecting. This made it very hard to dictate exactly what your character's going to look like. You kind of just have to feel around the circle. But no matter what you make your character look like, your parents will always look like they are actually the parents of whatever mutated hellspawn you decide to make. Which is really impressive and almost makes you forget the fact that your mother's actually a racist murderer who then abandoned a child that she orphaned to the wilderness. But this didn't stop me from noticing some rather overwhelmingly large gaps, and one of my first hints was in the flashbacks. I couldn't help but notice that my character still had the mutated hand that I got in the opening cinematic when I was an adult. I had touched some weird ichor and my hand got mutated and lost its fur. Yet in the flashback, all you did was shrink my character model while forgetting that I wasn't supposed to have that mutated hand yet. So they were having trouble keeping some of the narrative clean. And oh yeah, about narrative. Fuck your narrator. The fact that you had to include an option in the settings menu to make your narrator talk less probably shows that you really shouldn't have had him talking at all. You have a little automaton on your shoulder, have it be able to play old world music. Give us something to collect with it that gives it different music. But for God's sake, fill the dead air with something that isn't him talking poetry about daylight. The darkness, it makes you miss the light of day. Bitch, I chose the evil route. And that's not the first time he does it either. He keeps telling me how to feel about shit. Open world and freedom means that I'm supposed to be making these decisions. And if I'm choosing the evil route, I certainly wouldn't miss the light of day. I'm literally trying to end the fucking planet. You tell me a tingling feeling is making me want to get closer to this village. It is the only village on the pathway, and it's the first thing I've seen outside of the forest that actually seems to be a structure. Of course I'm going towards it. Of course it draws me in. Stop telling me that. Video games are at least partially a visual medium. Use your visuals to draw me in. Don't have a narrator tell me I'm feeling drawn in. This is one of the big issues I have with it, is that its story and narration and theme all just seems so less focused on than the entire rest of the game design. The character Out of Date blames me for finishing the tribe war first, because he figures a dark soul like me would want to finish the war first. What are you fucking talking about? You made me finish the war first! You locked the rest of the quest until I finished the damn clan war! And not you, the game designers, no, Out of Date, the actual guy who is now chastising me for finishing the war first, told me to finish the war before I went on to the final enemy. Pick a lane, asshole! Not that the war took too long, because apparently they didn't really want to actually do the war in it. They wanted you to finish the war before the end, but they didn't actually want the war to be a requirement. So after beating 2 of the 6 tribes and allying with a 3rd one, it let you literally have the option to skip the rest and have the rest just surrender to you. Either don't require me to finish it or don't have it in there, okay? By the way, I don't even know what all 6 tribes stand for, to be clear. I know that 3 want to destroy the world, and 3 of them want to save the world. And I have a variety of problems with that. First of all, none of them know that I have an escape ship that I can invite people onto until later in the game. Even I don't know that, so why do they want to destroy the world? You realize you're fucking standing on it, right? So right from the start, you feel forced into choosing between flower power and the Sith. And yes, it is that diametrically opposed. You either stop the World Eaters by defeating them, or you help the World Eaters by also defeating them. Evidently, this was not designed with a choice in mind, and if you couldn't write it in a way that made sense gameplay-wise, then you shouldn't have had the moral dichotomy anyway. You could have had 3 evil and 3 good tribes, but all of them wanted to live. And the dialogue of everyone important seems to be almost the exact same thing. They ask me about my revenge for Lupa Lupin. They ask me about what path I have chosen. They talk about how you can all find your own way to the end. I get it. You had a theme. It was very obvious from the start. You did not need to hammer it in like this. I'm not a fucking child. To be totally honest, one of my major reasons for deciding to end the world was based solely on the fact that everyone kept feeding me the same dialogue about finding your own path, and you know what? Fuck you. Your path doesn't lead anywhere. I'm ending everyone's path. The world is going down, and I'm gonna make it happen. Just because you keep insisting that we all choose your own path, I'm gonna fuck your path, and there's nothing you can do about it. Also, stop having everyone tell me that they knew me as a kidling. There are hundreds of people here. You will not convince me that every single one of them has the mind of a steel trap like an elephant and remembers me from when I was a child, especially since now I'm mutated with an eye patch and wearing a giant fucking bucket helmet that you can't see my face through. These people do not know me, and you will not convince me that they do. Also, I really like the Buckcat helmet. It's very fun. But my issues are not just narrative and theme-based, there's also a lot of mechanical things that don't seem to be lining up for me. The enemy attacks all seem to interrupt my combo, but not the other way around. In fact, a lot about the damage system needs to be balanced. When you get to late game or end game tier loot, that is, you have your thing upgraded all the way to the max, it is true that the melee does up to twice as much damage as the guns. The problem is that the guns can fire much faster, can have bonus effects on top of that, and the enemy works exactly the opposite. Their melee hits like a runaway freight train, and their guns don't do any damage at all, so the risk is just not worth the reward. But one of the most baffling things is after one of their updates, I had a pair of denim shorts. I thought it was really funny to have my character run around in denim shorts because I was a fully armored man who just ran up to people wearing fucking denim booty shorts, and I thought that was really funny. But, having never picked up any other armor that even resembled a skirt, and definitely would have noticed if I had picked up a skirt, and I never got rid of those shorts, I loaded in one time, and all of a sudden my shorts were gone, and I had a short skirt in my inventory. So clearly the developers, or someone, is messing around with this game after it came out, whether to fix it or otherwise. I'm not sure what they fucked up to swap my shorts for a skirt, but thanks to the creators of this game, I am now a trap running around commando in a mini skirt. And there's no fixing the kind of Rule 34 that's going to be drawn about that. If they're going to be updating it right after the game's release, I could really use more enemy types. Each type of area, that is hot, cold, biohazard, forest, or civilization, all has a light unit, a brawler, and some kind of roly-poly animal. There's a unique attack between some of them, but most of the time it's the same unique attack pattern. And yes, I realize that's like every open-world, single-player, story-driven RPG ever made ever by anyone. But it still feels very limited. We should definitely have more of those. And while a lot of people kept saying there was nothing on the map, there were no places, or there weren't enough unique places, I actually disagree. There were a lot of places to go. There were bunkers, there were abandoned buildings, there were fixer-upper houses, there were small mini-cities and neighborhoods, there was more dense cities and such. The problem I have with that is that there's no fucking reason to go to any of them. In other open-world games, there's always little books or lore or things hiding around. You'll find a skeleton wearing a dog collar in a doghouse because it'll be funny. You'll find a teddy bear reading a newspaper. You'll find all sorts of really interesting stuff hiding throughout the map in Fallout, and all kinds of interesting stories and weird fucked up experiments going on inside of the factories. There really doesn't appear to be any of that there. But despite having a decently large map with plenty of stuff on it, I found that the map felt kind of narrow, and it took me a bit to realize why. It's because it's so full of dead space. No, not that dead space. I'm talking about dead spaces in areas that are technically part of the map, but are realistically intraversable. The reason that you didn't have that issue in Breath of the Wild is because you could climb up any mountain. Anywhere you see on that map, you can go. But in this, with a considerably smaller map, there's a lot of places that you just can't go. There's a lot of areas that you just can't get to. And any bit of lore that you find is always going to be the same lore. The Toxinol Corporation polluted the thing, and now the thing is dying. And it's all going to be narrated by the same narrator instead of finding training films or something that might actually be entertaining to consume the lore through. Yes, that's right. The corporation that ruined the planet's name was Toxinol. That would be almost as cartoonishly, heavy-handedly evil as your mega corporation having its logo be a smirk. But the heavy-handed theme didn't come across as dark funny like Fallout's did, because it was only ever the same thing. In Fallout, the corporations, which there were more than one of at fault for things, were doing all sorts of various creative fucked up things. This one was just all bad. It was just, they polluted. They were polluting. They made nuclear power and it polluted, which, by the way, is a really dangerous thing to spread because nuclear power is actually a lot cleaner than a lot of other options. The company just polluted the world because they were evil and wanted to do terrible, evil things because they were evil, despite the fact that they were still living on the world at the time. That cartoonishly evil nature, along with the childish way they named everything, not in a fun-for-all-ages kind of way, in a childish way. A sit-tight. It's a saddle. Why would you call it a sit-tight? Why would they even develop that as a word for saddle? They have a word for mounted, but they can't translate saddle? And I refuse to accept large amounts of childish talk in a game that allows you to catch small furry animals and kill them mercilessly in order to increase your affinity with Darth Nihilus. And I'll roll this all back if they start updating it and fixing it, because I do believe they can fix it. They could No Man's Sky this shit and make good on what they promised to deliver at first. But for right now, I'm going to hold by all of these flaws. But let's talk about some of the pros that I think really made it, good. First of all, I was having fun with it. Maybe it's because I upped my intelligence so that my psi powers did more damage. Maybe it's because it was just such a creative fighting style, mixing all three together. Melee, psi powers, gunplay. There was a lot of dashing around, a lot of fun. And they showed that they can think creatively, they just didn't do it very often because I took one of the outposts by persuading the guy who was there that we'd kill him if he didn't just give us the outpost. And my persuade skill let me win. I fucking took an outpost with talk no jutsu. And that's fun. And I really like the cinematic at the end when you do the dark ending, because the whole world is exploding, the earth is upheaving, and everything's flying around as this cataclysm is sweeping towards you and you head for an escape ship. Wait, hold on, I thought the world was ending because I killed the Tree of Life. Even creatures as big as those would take a really long time to kill that massive fuck-off tree. And why the fuck is killing the tree causing the ground to erupt? How in the fuck are those things related? What, is the Tree of Life full of kerosene or some shit? But if you want to have fun in this game, I recommend a few things. First of all, get the resistance suits, not resistances inherent in your character. Because the resistance suits offer 100% to environmental resistance no matter what, and there's no point in spending mutations on getting resistances when you can just get a suit that offers 100% resistance anyway. Also, get the blink ability. It blinks you to a location and shockwaves when you get there, great for breaking up a big group. Also great for dashing in to get in some hits on a big guy right as he's attacking. But for a $20 to $15 game, it's actually pretty good. Oh wait, never mind, it's $60. No! This game is not worth $60 in its current form. So here's how you fix it. Steal from Fallout's world builders, properly. Fill it up with lore, add more than one corporation, add more than one thing for me to find at a location. Don't just give me a list of random loots that you want me to find and be like, yeah, that's good. Make it more clear what characters have quests. Make the dialogue easier to go through. But again, fill up that map with lore. It's not just that you have to tell me a quest to go someplace and check it out. There has to be a reason why I'd want to do that quest, why I'd want to go there. An interesting thing there other than loot and EXP from the quests. Give me a reason to go to these places on the map. You've got plenty of places. Give me a reason to want to be there. Balance your damages better. That would be a great start. I feel like you could do melee in this game and survive if you're really good at dodging, but even still, the risk of melee doesn't seem to pay off, and you can't actually do melee against any of the major bosses, so if you specialized in melee, you're fucked, which is outrageously stupid, especially considering all 4 of your major boss fights are the same thing. Get on a mount, shoot it from a distance, use a thing to distract it at certain times. There's the one that eats you, and that's kind of interesting. And the one that switches to a ground battle partway through, that's kind of interesting. But other than that, it's literally just the same boss fight and the same strategy against it. They all have unique attacks and a unique stage, so why did you work so hard to make sure I got on a mount and literally did the exact same strategy for all of them? You forced me to use the same strategy for all of them. You had a lot of very passionate people designing the combat style and stylization of the whole thing, and it's beautiful. Your gameplay elements are all there. You have all of the elements of really great gameplay, but you forgot to give us anywhere to use any of the shit. And you forgot to put the rest of the game in your game. You've got all the elements of gameplay, but you didn't have any set to actually put it on top of. It doesn't matter how well balanced the unique items that you made for your D&D group is, the whole rest of your world is junk. And I mean that with love, because you clearly loved this, and you're definitely the kind of people I want making video games. 100%. These are the people who should be making video games. If they had the rest of the team, like the kind of people who fill Fallout games full of lore, they would make the best game ever. The people who fill out the map in Fallout with lore and interesting stuff, and the massive world building and the unique environments, put them together with the stylization and gameplay developers here, and you'd have the best game ever made. At least for open world single player RPGs. Another thing you could do to improve the game is shoot your narrator. In fact, anyone who argues that you should keep the narrator and that it was a good idea to have such heavy-handed narration throughout the entirety of the entire game should probably be skinned alive and thrown out a window into a pile of salt. And while there's plenty of quests in the world, they're all mostly the same fetch quest. Go here, kill a thing, go here, find a guy, go here, search for a thing. Since you didn't put any interesting lore or unique location elements that I would be really interested in seeing when I get there, I have no reason to want to go on these quests. A fetch quest should at least take you somewhere you want to see. I go on a fetch quest in Fallout because I want to pick up every recording throughout the entire place and learn all of the things about the fucked up shit that's happening there. Fucked up medical experiments, robots going rogue, people getting caught in machinery and the corporations trying to cover it up, that one vault where they put over 1,000 residents in it and only one was a guy. You have all the elements of a really great game here, but the world was so empty and the story was so poorly written that I had trouble really getting any feeling behind it, no matter how many times your narrator fucking told me how I felt about it. 50%. More generous than Penguin Zero gave it because I came in a little bit later than he did, and they do appear to be trying to patch it together, because they care about the game. But that doesn't save it from 50% now, and a 50% is still a fucking F. And I say again, I will roll this back and re-review it if they patch it to a point where the game is actually enjoyable. Drop some free DLC, fix up your world, resurrect this game, because it can be done. Not without massively changing the storyline, admittedly, but it can be done because you have all the elements of a good game here. Honestly, I could go on talking about this game for a very, very long time, and I've already gone on talking about it for too much, but let me know in the comments whether or not you think there's anything I left out or anything you'd like to hear more about, or if there's some aspect of it that you'd really want me to do a solo video on. The world building, the character, the lore, the gameplay, whatever. Because I could definitely go into more detail in a solo video dedicated to one part of that than I could in a video that's covering the entire game all at once. Like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, and all those things that help me with the algorithm. Blah blah blah, ending joke, this video's getting too long, entertainingly angry.